It's intermission time. It's great to get out to the movies.
I'm Megan. I'm the host of the Intermission podcast by the Synagogue. And today we have Macon Blair. I'm actually very, very excited to talk to you. I absolutely love the movies that you're in. And this to me is like such a cool episode just to get it off to that start. But can you just do a little intro of who you are, what you do, a little background for the listener?
Sure. My name's Macon Blair. I kind of think of myself as a writer, but when I'm lucky, I'll get cast in things as an actor. And I've been very lucky to so far make two movies that I've directed. The first one was called I Don't Feel at Home in This World Anymore, which came out in 2017. And then I've got a new version of The Toxic Avenger coming out in August.
Sweet. And that is the movie that we'll be focusing on today. We'll have a section dedicated to it later. Your movie that you mentioned, your original or your first project directing, I Don't Feel at Home in This World, that won a prize at South by Southwest, right?
It won the jury prize at Sundance in 2000.
It's Sundance.
Yeah, and in 2017. Mm-hmm.
What a cool accomplishment for your first directorial debut. How did it feel?
It was mind-blowing. It was really...
You're like, I must be good at this.
I didn't have that reaction. I kind of thought that maybe there was some mistake that got made or something. But it was... it had a really good screening, and that was kind of all I was hoping for first time out of the gate. But it seemed to land with the jury. And what happened was one of the jury members was Peter Dinklage. And he, after the fact, invited me out to lunch to just sort of talk about the movie and say, hey, and we sort of stayed in touch based on that. Just sort of like texting here and there. But that indirectly is what led to him being in Toxic.
Oh, that's cool. I like that connection.
Yeah.
I also wanted to shout, so the two movies that at the top of the episode, I was saying I'm a big fan. Blue Ruin you were in 2013, and then Green Room in 2015. Those are the two that are like, I think are incredible movies. Can you tell me a little bit about those?
Yeah, those are both written and directed by my very good friend, Jeremy Saulnier. We actually grew up together in Virginia. And the biggest stroke of luck that I've had in my life was to have happened to grow up in the same neighborhood as Jeremy, because he kept putting me in his movies. And Blue Ruin was one that it put him on the map as a director, and by proximity, I was trying to be an actor and a writer at that time, and so I was able to meet people, and sort of suddenly I could get people to read scripts that previously I wasn't really having much luck with, and that kind of incrementally, not overnight or anything, but in baby steps, allowed me to move forward a little bit. And then when we were making Green Room, which was a couple of years later, with the same producers, the same production group. And I was working on a script at that time that I had the idea that at some point in the future, I didn't really have a plan for it. But I had the idea that I would want to try and direct it. And what happened was the producers on that movie, out of nowhere, just one day we were having lunch, and they said, when are you going to write something for you to direct? And they were like, you should show it to us whenever it's done. And they didn't even know I was working on anything. And that sort of bit of encouragement from them is what sort of got that first movie up and running. They kind of took it under their wing and figured out how to get it financed. And about a year or two later, we got that one made. So it was a lot of circumstantial stuff of meeting the right people at the right time, and being very lucky in that way.
I was going to ask you, the characters that you've played, do you ever see a common thread in them? I know obviously the the two first roles, they're with Jeremy, so he kind of knows you as a person and like what you would be good at. But do you see a common thread in the type of either stories you write or roles you play?
Of the roles that I have been cast in, and I haven't actually thought about this until the moment, but as you were asking it, I was kind of like, oh, I don't really know. And I was trying to think, and it occurs to me that I think a commonality is that they're all out of their depth in some way.
Oh,
They're
yeah.
all not equipped to deal with whatever it is they're being presented with. The skinhead in Green Room, Dwight in Blue Ruin, the lawyer in Oppenheimer, all of these people were sort of like scrambling to keep up with their surroundings. I don't think that's intentional, but that seems to be how it's worked out.
Okay, and this is a question that we ask every guest that comes on the show just to get the ball rolling.
Yeah.
But if you were to pick a movie that would describe where you're at in life right now, what would it be?
That could go a lot of different ways. Gosh, where I am at right now, I think I might just go with Repo Man because it's a favorite, and I think the sort of like looking at things kind of falling apart around the edges sort of feels apt in some way. But that's just one I come back to all the time. I watch it probably once a year. And it's one I'm very fond of, so it's easy to answer with that one.
Cool. Okay, so now we're going to get into the section of just general film taste, what you like to consume. So when I say favorite filmmaker, who are some people that come to mind?
I mean, a lot of the ones that I think a lot of people would say, I really love the Coen brothers, of course. I love Martin Scorsese. I love James Whale. I love his movies. I really like, let's see. I like Andre de Toth a lot. He did a lot of movies that I really dug. There was one in particular called Crime Wave that I go back to a lot and watch over and over again. I really like Fellini's movies a lot. La Strada is one that I go back to a lot. I find that one very beautiful. Oh, Sam Fuller, for sure. Love Sam Fuller's movies. There's a lot by Penelope Spheris that I like. I like all of the Decline of Western Civilization documentaries, and I really love Suburbia. I go back to that one a lot. And there's quite a few William Friedkins that I like. I've got a Sorcerer t-shirt on by accident, but To Live and Die in LA is one that I like, again, will just put on over and over again. There's like a cluster of movies that like, I like to see new things and I like to be exposed to new things, but I also am one of those people that I have my comfort food, and sometimes I like to just go back to something that I've seen 20 times because I know it so well, and there's sort of comfort in that, and you can just sort of luxuriate in all the little details, and it's you're not wondering where it's going to go, and there's something very comforting about that. So I tend
that's completely valid.
Yeah.
Do you have any films that you think are criminally underrated?
Criminally underrated, gosh.
Some underdogs
that nobody talks about, really.
Yeah.
There's this one there's this movie called Food of the Gods that I just love. That's like, it's basically big animals attack, and so it's a lot of like forced perspective and fun sort of old school compositing, but it's like giant rats and giant chickens attacking people, and it's just endlessly fun. I don't know if that would be underrated, but it's just it's one that I think was on like a cable channel or something when I was young, and one of those ones that like made a huge impression on me as a young kid. How did they do that?
Yeah.
It really got me thinking about it. So I mean, I don't know, that maybe that might be one. I'm bad at coming up with stuff on the fly, but what will probably happen is we'll get deeper into the conversation.
You can come back to it.
And then I'll
Yeah.
show something that's
Yeah, that's the hard thing about our show is a lot of these questions are just like jogging people's memory.
Yeah.
But also like the questions that we ask, I do think it's fun just to see where people's heads go because it may not be like the correct answer, but it's just what's like recently on your mind.
off the tip of their tongue. Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, I was just watching it's not underrated at all. Everybody kind of considers it a masterpiece, but I was just watching the Spider-Verse animated movie with my kids, and that's another one that's just kind of like endlessly rewatchable. That's not underrated though. I think everybody agrees those are pretty great.
Well, speaking of your kids, do you feel like they've brought new types of films into your world that you wouldn't have consumed otherwise, but you've watched it because you want to watch something with them?
It's kind of the other way around because they're very into, like the short form online stuff. And so I will go, all right, tonight we're watching a movie. And they kind of go, huh. And I'm like, no, I have to force it on them. But what happens invariably is 5 minutes in, they get sucked in. And sometimes they're just like, they'll get through the whole thing and it's not really their thing. They're kind of like indifferent to Star Wars. And I was hoping that would be a big thing. But on the other hand, they're wild for The Naked Gun and Airplane and Top Secret and those types of movies. And they will watch those like 4 times a month. And so I'm kind of like, I will take any victory I can get. And if we're going to have to watch something on repeat, that's a pretty good spot to land.
Yeah. Okay. So thinking about how you started as an actor and then now you're in the writing and directing realm, is there an acting performance that you've watched that you would love to have someone emulate in one of your films? So like a performance that you thought was just groundbreaking that you hope to one day have in a project of yours?
It would assume that I could make a movie like this, and it's probably beyond me, but Jenna Rollins and Woman Under the Influence, I've always thought was kind of otherworldly. And so if you're thinking about like, holy shit, that was amazing, that's one that readily comes to mind for me, for sure. But that's also, I think that's a very patient type of filmmaking, and I think I'm a little more skittery than that. So like I don't know that I would be the person to craft something where a performance like that could happen, but that's one that comes to mind when I think of like the great stuff.
Oh, have you ever had a complete creative shift after seeing a film where you saw it and it was maybe something that was a different style than yours or perspective, and you thought like, I want to make something like that?
Gosh, what a great question. What would that be? I'm sure it's happened. When I was in high school, I saw a movie called Begotten.
Okay.
Or no, actually, that would have been my first year of college, I think. And the director's name is, I apologize if I'm mispronouncing this, but I believe it's Elias Merhaj. And I think the closest thing you could liken it to would be maybe something like Eraserhead, but it's completely nightmarish and kind of nonlinear. There is a story, but it's not dialogue driven, and then the characters are kind of not even recognizable as people. Very strange, but so just it scared the hell out of me, and I came away from that thinking like, I want to do something like that, and I tried to. It never came to anything, but I tried to write a couple of things that were maybe in that style, meaning that like the movie would try to capture the feeling of being inside of a dream to such an extent that it's unsettling to the audience. And what I came out with was kind of gibberish, and I was like, shit. That's not really what I'm cut out to do, but I was chasing that for a minute just because of how sort of like worried the movie made me feel when I watched it, which seemed distinct from like, oh, this is very entertaining, or I'm wrapped up in the story. It made me emotionally feel like unsettled. And there was a period of time where I was thinking maybe I could do something like that, but I think I didn't have this something like that off probably.
Is there a director that comes to mind? Like, let's say you had to co-direct a movie and work with someone that you think you would be terrible at working with, but you admire them. Like, they're just probably not your style of directing.
Okay, I think I am like more shoot from the hip and kind of instinctual, and so if I were to be put alongside somebody like who I have heard is extremely meticulous and specific, like say David Fincher or something like that, he would probably throw me off the set onto my face. Is what I that would be my assumption, just for a clash of styles, and that's only based on things that I've read in magazines. Never met the gentleman. I'm sure he's delightful, but I think my style is a little looser and a little more kind of like, let's figure it out as we go, and let's try different things, and sort of just kind of like have it be a little instinctive, and let the messiness and imprecision be part of the vibe, as opposed to a thing to be avoided. So off the top of my head, I think he'd probably want to punch me in the nose.
I think that if I ever directed something, I would be more on his end, where I'm just so anal about everything that it would be like storyboarded out every moment.
Right on.
People would probably get really annoyed with me.
or they would be grateful that you've given them such specific things to shoot for, that, like, you know,
it would be efficient. I wouldn't be worried. I don't know.
Sure would. Yeah.
What is a film that you saw this year that you just absolutely loved?
Nosferatu blew my doors off. Like, I loved that one. And what did I just see? I just saw something recently that I loved. It was 28 years later. Yeah, that was it. And what it was, I mean, okay, so the first one was one of those movies when it came out that I saw it I was living in New York at the time, and there was a movie theater called the Pavilion in Brooklyn that was like a block away from my house. And I saw it the first night. I went back the very next day, saw it again, went back a third day in a row and saw it again. It just really, really, it was so exciting. And I really enjoyed the second one as well. But the first one made such an impact on me. So I heard there was this new one coming out. And I was obviously very excited for it. And I went into it, and it kind of did what it did for most of the movie. And I was really, really excited and really liking it. And then, have you seen it?
It's on my watch list.
All right. So I'll tiptoe around it. But what I'll say is that it takes a turn in like the last 10 minutes of the movie that was so confounding. And as I was watching it, I was kind of like, I don't know. I don't know if I like this or not. And then, like, over time, as I walked out of the theater and as I walked to my car, and I slept on it, and then the next day and the next day after it, and the more and more I replayed it in my mind, I became more and more convinced that it was the coolest thing ever, and I fucking loved it. And I think a lot of it was just, I just love that Danny Boyle or anybody that does this kind of thing, where they just kind of seem to do whatever made sense for them without any regard to, like, is this necessarily traditional or commercial, or like, are people going to think this is cool or cringy or what this is? They just fucking did what they wanted to do and let the fall where they may. And that alone for me was like just delightful. And so even though I kind of had a bit of whiplash with it, when the dust settled, I felt like it was just fantastic. And I was so glad that it existed. And then there's one I'm going to see tomorrow night called Kill the Jockey, which is, I think it's a French movie, but I couldn't swear to that. But I saw the preview when I saw the other movie, and it was just one of those times where you just see a trailer and I'm like, oh shit, I can't miss that. And so
Okay, wait, I'm gonna add it to my watch list.
I don't know anything about the filmmaker. I don't know anything. I'm kind of going in blind, but just on the strength of a 2-minute trailer that totally captivated me, I grabbed some tickets and I'm going to see that one.
Fine, I just saved it, so I'll watch it too. That's always the best. I love going into a movie super cold. Also, your sentiment about 28 years later, it's funny, I've heard a very similar thing about like the just like sitting with it and then respecting it after the fact. So I'm excited to see if I have that same feeling.
Cool. Well, yeah.
Okay, so now we're going to get into your film, The Toxic Avenger. For those listening, the original came out in 1984, and your film is not like a sequel, it's a reboot of it, starring, is that what you would consider it, a reboot?
I think so. I haven't really thought about the language. I mean, it's not a remake because it's not the same character.
Yeah.
It's the same, like the Toxic Avenger is the same, but he's got a different a different origin story, and he starts as a different person. So it's kind of a reimagining, reboot, whatever you want to call it is okay.
Yeah. And like we said earlier, Peter Dinklage, it plays the lead, which is such a fun casting.
Yeah.
I have a little summary of it here. I'll read. A janitor becomes a social outcast when a freak accident at a chemical factory turns him into a mutant. However, he soon uses his newfound superhuman strength to battle slimy criminals and a corrupt CEO. Does that feel right to you?
That is technically accurate, yes.
Okay. How would you describe it without giving it away?
I would say an outsider falls into toxic waste and gets some muscles, and he uses those muscles to fuck up bad guys. And
right on.
You overcomplicate it. It's pretty straightforward. It's not exactly nuanced, but it's meant to be a lot of fun, and it's meant to be, it's a new story with a new character that's kind of doing his own thing. But the goal, before we had any of that figured out, was to be faithful to the spirit and vibe, the tone or whatever of the original movies, so that the people that love those movies and have sort of kept the whole trauma thing going for several decades now would feel like their baby was being respected, and it wasn't taken in some weird direction that didn't resemble what it always was. And so that was sort of the marching orders that I gave myself, and that's what I suggested to the producers, and they were excited by that version of things, so that's what we went with.
Cool. Was this a project that came to you, or why this film?
What had happened was Legendary, big studio, does a lot of big movies, but there was an executive there who had a real fondness for the Troma movies, and he found out that the rights were coming up. It had been developed elsewhere. I don't know the exact particulars, but there were other attempts to make it that didn't pan out for whatever reason. I don't know. But I think I had heard that one of the versions was going to be like PG-13. And so they got the rights, and they were just soliciting pitches from writers. And having heard that, I was kind of like, oh, is this going to be like a family friendly version, or are they maybe going to want to do like a gritty, serious version? I was a little hesitant, to be honest. But I just went in and said, look, I don't know what the story is, but I feel like you want to have a dude in a suit, like not a CGI creature. And it should be very silly, like the original, like not take itself seriously. And it should be R-rated with some sloppiness, and not a PG-13. I felt like those were the things that the fans would expect. And that was enough to get them saying like, okay, yeah, we like that version of things. And then we started developing outlines. And it kind of went from there. And it was not that I had like gone around like, I can't wait, one day I'm going to make the Toxic Avenger. Honestly, it had never crossed my mind, honestly. But I had seen it when I was a kid, and it did make a big impact on me at a time when we were figuring out how to make our own movies. And so when this sort of idea came up, it did feel like, oh, this could be like a way of going back and making one of those movies that we made in the woods behind our house when we were kids with VHS camera, except with the machinery and resources of a Hollywood studio behind it. And it might actually get made. I mean, that's not guaranteed, but at that point it was like, let's write the script and see what happens. And so it was kind of exciting in that way, not as like, this is a lifelong dream, but like this feels full circle in some way, you know?
Very cool. Yeah.
Like going back to putting blood into baggies and putting them on your chest to do special effects kind of thing. That was sort of the vibe of it. And that was sort of that's how we approached the making of it.
How fun.
Yeah.
How did you feel like you struck a balance between the original, but just your tone? Like, how would you describe your tone with this?
I think I would describe my tone as being deliberately stupid. Like
I love a stupid movie.
Yeah, I'm not saying that for like false humility. I mean, like the point of it was like, the shit is dumb, but it'll be fun in the course of that. And so we wanted it to feel kind of hand stitched. You know, I'm kind of doing air quotes, but like you can see the seams a little bit. And you know, even in the way we shot it, I had a great director of photography named Dana Gonzalez, and he was so clever about shooting it in a way that felt artful and beautiful, but we also kind of tried to limit ourselves so it could still feel like it was just guys that had one camera that was on a tripod, and like we didn't have big, you know, cranes,
like a whole production. Yeah,
we kind of broke that rule in a couple of shots for sure, but like we kind of wanted it to feel a little handmade in the design and in the photography and in everything, because that seemed like it would be fun to me. And I think part of it was like, I felt like if we made it if we chased a version of it that was too slick or too refined, you know, or too polished, then it would feel kind of high stepping. Like, what? It's a Toxic Avenger. What are you talking about? It's a guy with a like hitting people.
Like, don't take itself so serious.
Yeah, and it should have that like quality to it. And so we tried to bake that into the design. So that was sort of something we tried to be consistent with from the original. You know, I think I definitely, I don't know what I think their intention in making the original, and I gather this from some conversations I had with Lloyd, who made the original, and his partner Michael, and they had what I would think of as a very like P.T. Barnum sort of approach to entertainment, and sort of like, let's give them what they want to see, making it fun for the audience. And so we definitely tried to bring some of that along. And I mentioned earlier that, you know, the Zucker Brothers movies are a big hit around my house. I think I was really trying to think of this movie in particular as a comedy along those lines. So even though it sometimes gets talked about in promotional materials or whatever as like a superhero movie, or I've even heard people say a horror movie, and I'm always kind of like, that shit is not a horror movie. It is a comedy from top to bottom. It's got some blood in it here and there, but it's not a splatter fest. It's not a gore fest. And so those types of movies that are just very intentionally going for the gags at all times, that was something we were very inspired by.
For sure. Was there a scene that you particularly had a fun time directing? Because I feel like this type of movie, like you said, it's comedic, but there's action, there's blood. Does any moment stand out to you?
The whole thing, it was one of those things where we were kind of like, I was going back through my phone to look for that they were requesting, you know, behind the scenes photos for promotional purposes. And what I was struck by, and I had kind of forgotten this because some time has passed.
Yeah.
But in all of the shots, everyone's kind of doing this and kind of like, and I was reminded that like there was a lot of laughter. It was, I mean, it's hard work. Everyone's getting up early and it's very hot and it's tough to do, but it was very fun. So there was a lot of scenes. I mean, all of them were in their own way, like a treat to get to do. Sometimes it was because we were blowing up a lot of blood and that's fun to look at and you get to see the mechanical stuff doing what it does. And it's like a science fair that you get to sort of play with. And that's fun in its own way. Other times it's sort of like I get to go and with a straight face go up to a legit American movie star icon like Kevin Bacon, who else has a game named after him for how much shit they've been in. And I get to go up and tell him like, dude, go up to 12 or turn it up to 11 or 13. It doesn't matter. If we can always dial it back. We can always use a different take or whatever, but please just go big and have as much fun as you can with it. And stuff like that, getting to do that with people like him and Elijah and Peter and everybody else, that was a blast. So sometimes it was the juicy, goopy stuff. Sometimes it's just like say these silly lines like an evil CEO and see what it feels like. And that was just as much fun to be behind the monitor. Like, yes, it's delightful.
I'm glad you brought up Kevin Bacon because I forgot to say like this cast is pretty stacked. You have Elijah Wood in here. You're in it.
I'll tell you about that. I put myself in there to. Have you seen the movie?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that was specifically because I knew that I wanted. This was one of the first things I had figured out was wanting a cameo for Lloyd Kaufman in there, and I wanted the nature of the cameo to be him specifically telling me. I didn't know what it was at the time, but something along the lines of like, get off my lawn or keep your voice down or shut up or something. But like, I wanted it to be Lloyd giving me a hard time. So I put my character in there so that when Lloyd's appears at the end, then sort of like you've seen this guy before and you see that he's kind of a loudmouth so that when Lloyd's like, keep your fucking voice down, that could be the vibe of the cameo. So,
yeah.
I lost my train of thought. That's why. Oh yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, it was.
And you had Jacob Tremblay in there too.
One of the great young actors, Julia Davis, who is a comedy legend. I was completely obsessed with this TV show that she did in like the early 2000s, I think, called Nighty Night, which is this completely sinister dark comedy that she wrote and starred in and was just amazing. And we were lucky to get her. Taylor Page was just coming off of Zola when we made this. And
Very cool.
It was a lot of fun to sort of plug her into the only cool role in the movie. Like everybody else sort of a fuck up and a bumbler. And she's like the only one who actually gets to like look good and run fast and do cool things. Yeah, an embarrassment of riches. David Yao gets a little cameo in it. The Elijah part I wrote for him, so I had a little sense that he would say yes ahead of time, but everybody else we assembled as we went. Peter was the first one, and then once you can tell people like, and the lead and perhaps the person that you'll be acting with is Peter Dinklage, then people tend to like, okay, I'll read it, and like you get a little more interest that way. So that sort of started a bit of momentum, and then the rest of the casting sort of came together quite quickly.
Very cool. To wrap up the section for your film, who would you say this movie is for?
Party people.
People that like to have a good time.
Yeah.
I love it. And then remind me the release date for this movie, when the listener can go see it and where.
August 29th in theaters. I couldn't tell you which theaters in particular. Your phone could tell you that, but August 29th.
Perfect. Okay, now I think we'll just do one of these games. This is going to be the casting couch. And I'm going to say a type of person, and you have to tell me which actor you would have for that role. And let me know if this makes sense. I have my own answers here just in case you need some inspiration. So first we have, you're casting a wrestler.
Casting a wrestler, I would do Derek Mears.
Okay, I put Mickey Rourke, just a reboot moment.
Yeah, dude. I mean, I could do a whole show on Mickey Rourke. I'm a Mickey Rourke super fan.
Oh, really? That's cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, a child actor from the 90s.
Danny Cooksey?
Oh, a B movie legend.
A B movie legend, Dick Miller.
Okay, I have here Bruce Campbell from the.
Although relegating him to just B movies is limiting.
Does it feel like an insult?
I don't know if it's an insult. It's just like he's in. I mean, Gremlins is not a B movie, but he's everywhere. But I guess I kind of think of him as kind of coming from that world.
Yeah.
Just for legendary status alone, I'll say Dick Miller.
Okay, heartthrob.
Just from recent times, I'll go with Aaron Pierre.
Okay.
He was in my buddy Jeremy's movie.
Wait, I gotta look up a photo because I'm
fucking hot, man.
Wait, let me see. Oh.
Yeah. Oh, exactly.
What was your friend's movie?
Rebel Ridge.
Oh yeah, I'm seeing that right here. Oh, it just came out.
Yeah.
Oh, it's on Netflix.
Yeah.
And it did really well. Okay, I have to watch it.
Yeah, it just got nominated for an Emmy. It's fucking great. And anyways.
Oh, wow. I'm behind. Okay, cool. Well, good for your friend. Someone who is a non-actor, like a well-known name, but not an actor.
A well-known name. Now, to be clear, are you saying like somebody who I would put in a movie? Or are you saying somebody who was not an actor, but we saw them in a movie?
Like I put my answer is Guy Fieri in a movie. It would be funny to me.
Oh. I see what you're saying. So just like grab somebody out from the world and put him in there who's not an actor. Tony Hawk.
Oh, I like that. Cool. Okay, and I have just two
more.
more.
My favorite from the Bones Brigade. So I was just thinking of, I think I tried to sidestep from professional chef to professional athlete. And there we go.
Okay. Second to last one is a horror icon.
Vampira.
Cool. I put Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yeah.
And then last one, a musician trying to act.
Well, does trying imply that they didn't get it done?
Oh, I guess this would imply they're giving it a go, like they're trying to transition into acting.
I got to go with my good buddy David Yao, who is a very gifted actor. So he would be known for most of his career as a rock and roll frontman, one of the best, deservedly so. And because of that, not because of, I hadn't really seen anything that he had done acting wise, except for one independent movie called Walls in the City, like 20 years ago. But I wrote the part of the villain in my first movie for him because he had such a particular stage presence that I thought would be nifty as a bad guy. And he turned out to be a really dynamite actor. And so then I wrote the part for the sort of, wise hobo who gives advice in Toxic for him as well. I'm going to say David Yao.
Incredible. Yeah. I love it. Great answer. Well, that is all I have for us today. I had a really great time talking with you.
What a fun chat. Thank you for having me on your show.
Hell yeah. And just so we can plug your film one more time, can you say the release date?
The Toxic Avenger, August 29th in theater.
Oh, and I typically like to leave the listener with like a fun, like obviously we want them to go see your movie, but maybe like a fun movie rec that you think the listener should watch. Like if they'd never seen this movie, they should definitely go see it. Yeah. I just watched it like a couple of weeks ago and it was a lot of fun.
and it's either called The Horror at Party Beach. Yes. No, The Horror of Party Beach. I thought I was going to say The Horror at Party Beach. It's The Horror of Party Beach.
Cool.
And that one is just loads of fun. I think you can probably watch it for free on YouTube.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much again for coming on, and now it's time to get lost.
Good evening.
If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to leave us 5 stars on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts. To stay in touch, follow our Instagram page at It's Intermission Time and share with your friends. As always, Intermission is produced by Jazeel Chu and Olivia Dean, and of course, hosted by yours truly, Megan Braun. This episode is brought to you by The Synagogue.